Oh, hey guys. Sorry about that, working on my quantum mechanics. Today we're working on common and decimal fractions for grade 5 and grade 6. So the terminology we'll be referring to today during the activity that I have gathered is tenths, hundredths, representation, so the representation of different common fractions and decimals, and also equal and equivalent, as common fractions are also equivalent to possible decimal fractions. A warm-up activity is essential to assess prior knowledge and to help students identify basic common and decimal facts, such as 1/10 is the equivalent to 10 hundredths or 10%. 40 hundredths is equivalent to 4/10, 40% or 2/5. Also, making equal parts in a 10 by 10 grid helps students identify fractions much easier. So this is 2/5 shaded, again, which is the same or equivalent to the 10 by 10 grid above. And this last grid is in the quarter portions, therefore 25 hundredths is shaded, which is equivalent to saying 1/4 or 25%. Dividing the grid into equal parts such as fifths or quarters, students can observe the relationship between decimal numbers and fractions with the denominators other than 10 and 100. So 10 by 10 grid helps students recognize relationships between fractions and decimal numbers. The prior knowledge used for this activity must identify certain language connected to fractions, such as the numerator and denominator, and also you need to have knowledge of basic decimal and fraction facts. So the focus in this following learning activity is on equal representations. The notion that different numerical forms can represent the same quantity is a major development in students' understanding about numbers. So this learning activity involves the matching in a collaboration. So there'll be two partners and they'll be giving a set of 10 by 10 grids with different common fractions and decimals associated to them. Then over here, the first student will choose each one, so they'll choose the language associated to the 10 by 10 grid, the decimal fraction, and the common fraction. If a student does 2 out of 3, it's the next student's turn. So here, a student might do 60 hundredths. They'll try and find where 60 hundredths is, right there. And then 3/10, try and find it there. And also the decimal fraction. Try and find the decimal fraction, which is here. But if a student doesn't do that, then it's the next student's turn. So he could maybe find it, and then it'll be the language this time. 23 hundredths, try and find 23 hundredths, which is here, the decimal fraction, which is here, and also a common fraction, which is here. Now the students will do this until all the cards are gone, and then at the end of the activity they could test themselves. They could have a race with two decks of the 10 by 10 grid cards. So this will be the final product of the students' learning activity. So you see how we have the 10 by grid, correct association to the decimal fraction, the common fraction, and the language. The learning objectives associated to this activity are connecting fractions and decimals as different representations of the same number, moving fluently between representations and choosing the appropriate one for the problem being solved, demonstrate and explain the concept of equivalent fractions using concrete materials, also demonstrate and explain equivalent representations of a decimal number using concrete materials and drawings, and lastly, to be able to determine and explain through investigation using concrete materials and drawings and the relationship between fractions. Students will then be successful in reading, representing, comparing and ordering whole numbers to 100,000 and decimal numbers to 100ths, proper and improper fractions and mixed numbers. That is the justification and overall student expectation of this learning activity. Another game that I would suggest to use in introducing common and decimal fractions in grade 5 and grade 6 is a similar game to Go Fish. What it would do is that instead of using all the cards, you will use either two piles. So you can use either the 10 by 10 grids or the language, or with the common fraction and the decimal fraction. So in this game here, I've incorporated the 10 by 10 grid and the common fraction. So I've already dealt my invisible player the 5 cards, and now I go through my cards. I've got a 3-10 pair, so I place that here, and so assume that I go first. I say, do you have 3/4? I have to say the correct language before he can give me the card. If he doesn't have the card, I pick up. Today's learning activity revolved around the revision of common and decimal fraction facts and moving fluently between different representations of these 10 by 10 grid cards. Thank you for listening, and now back to quantum mechanics.